Hi everybody and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at dot plots, scatter plots, and histograms. So today, after watching this video, you will be able to create, so not just identify and answer questions about, but create your own set of dot plots, scatter plots, and histograms. So to start off, we are going to start off with a scatter plot. And this is a graph with two variable values on the x and y axis of given points. So in the past, we've seen a lot of things like parabolas. That was a terrible parabola. Not much better. Sorry. Parabolas, lines, things like that. The difference is a scatter plot could be those things, but it also doesn't need to be. So typically, it's just a xy axis, just quadrant one. I'm having a hard time drawing the most basic letters today. And in here, it's basically just a collection of dots. And we plot them where they belong, but sometimes they form a nice line, sometimes they don't, sometimes they have a trend, sometimes they don't. So if we take a look at our real life example here, all that we're going to do is just identify x and y axis and go from there. So first thing, our x term is Excel knowledge score. So we always want to label that. So we'll call this our knowledge score here. And then on the side, salary, we can just assume that this is in money, but we'll just put salary down here. So if you have a knowledge score of 6, they assume that you'll go up to 750,000. Knowledge score of 7, we go all the way up to 800. Knowledge score of 3 puts you at 300,000. So we're just using these ordered pairs. This tells us left, right. This tells us up, down. This tells us left, right. This tells us up, down. So we're just going one at a time here. 9 puts us at 1,000,000. 3 puts us at just under 300,000. So very close to actually the point that we had previously plotted. 4 puts us at 432. 2 puts us at 250. 5 puts us at 600,000. And then 8 puts us at 900,000. So as you can see here, it's, really, really well related, but not a perfect line. There's some above, some below, and that's kind of the idea of most scatter plots is sometimes you have a strong trend, you don't always, but it's just a way to represent points that aren't on a perfect line. So that's all you really have to do for scatter plots for today, is just make sure that you have your axes labeled. And then second, we're also going to want to make sure that we are graphing our points. So next up, we have dot plots. And this is a chart of data points on a single scale. So if we're thinking about x and y axis and all those different types of things, it's literally just going to be one scale, just from left to right. And we're still going to want to label it, so whatever that might be, might just be points. And we want to label and not skip any values of anything that we might be graphing. So if we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and our data set has 1, 2, 7, 6, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, we have to make sure all of these are there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have to make sure all of those are labeled there, and then we just put a dot every time it happens. And once we do that, we can kind of see a distribution of how are these spread out. Are they all close together? Are they really far apart? And the key here is even though we don't have any numbers that are 5, we are still going to put that down there because we have to be able to show an accurate picture of left to right spacing. So for this one here, I always want to double check our lowest and our smallest values. So 6, I think, is our smallest, and 13 is our biggest. And both of those are included here. So that's good. We didn't skip any numbers. We go 5, 6, 7, all the way up through 13. So that helps us. So start off with 12, 11, 13, and so on. A key thing to note is you want to make sure as we're graphing these that we are putting the same sized dots the same distance apart from each other. You don't want to influence our perception of this by, maybe putting a really big dot. Obviously that wouldn't be appropriate. For the same way though, if we had 2 dots on top of each other, if this is how we do 2 dots here, we don't want to do 2 dots like this for the next one, right? We want to make sure that everything is left to right exactly the same. So yeah, as you can see here on our dot plot below, I think we did a pretty good job of that. If we use our ruler, we can kind of double check ourselves here, but our first row is all about the same. Second row is all about the same. So we have pretty equal spacing. So we did a good job representing our dot plot. And again, for today, we're just focusing on creating. We'll do more analysis of what we've created coming up in the future. Our last one here for today is a histogram. So for a histogram, this is a diagram with rectangles that have area proportional to the frequency. So when we are looking at these here on our scale on the bottom, what we're going to see is the way that they're different from a dot plot is that this represents a range of values on the x-axis. So instead of having a number just for 3, we're going to have a number that goes from 3 all the way up through 5. And then we'll go 6 through 8. And then we'll go 9 through 11, and so on. So the idea for this is as we're working through these, we're kind of grouping things together. So if we have that same data set that we were looking at before, we can use that one from up top. So 1, 2, 7, 6, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. We have to make sure we keep extending out our axis to include everything. But we want to start off with, I think actually we'd be at 0 through 2 here. And every time that one of these comes up, we'd want to make sure that their frequency is reflected. So for our 0 through 2 group, we have to first count how many numbers do we have in our 0 through 2 group. So 1, 2, 3. For our 3 to 5 group, how many times does that come up? So 1, 2, 3, 4. For our 6 through 8 group, we have 1, 2. So that's how we would make it, is from 0 to 2, we go up 3. From 3 to 5, that's when we go up all the way up to 4. And then from 6 to 8, we only do 2. So that would be our histogram. And again, the key here that makes it different from the other ones is we have a range of the values that we're looking at. So down here, we label frequency on our y-axis, and then we label number of wins on our x-axis, and we just label our columns. So 11 through 20, 21 through 30, 31 through 40, 41 through 50, and 51 through 60. And then the frequency is how many times does it come up? So maybe this line is 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10. We want to shade in our rectangles for how much area they represent. So 11 through 20 goes just to 3, 21 through 30 goes all the way up to 4, 31 through 40 is also up to 4, 41 through 50 goes up through 10, and 51 through 60 goes up through 8. So if we shade these in, hopefully I don't run out of colors by the end here. This is how we basically create our histogram. So these ones take a little bit more time because we have to put things in groups before we graph them, but the overall idea is the same. We're just looking for how frequently do things come up, where are most of our data points, how spread out are things, and again, we're just getting ourselves ready for a future analysis on what we create. So for today, in Book Widgets, we're just going to be basically doing exactly what we just did for our example questions here, just creating